Hello, Red Raiders. I'm Mateo Rosiles, the opinions editor at the Daily Toreador, and I have the honor today of sitting down with the 2020 to 2021 student body president, Hunter Hegg, on her last day before she leaves office and graduates from Texas Tech. Hello, Hunter. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
So just to get to know you a little bit, where are you from and why did you choose Tech?
So I'm from a small town outside of Amarillo called Panhandle, Texas. People always think I'm just talking about the area, but there is a town. We're a very small town, just 2,000 people, but proud to be from there. And my mom is actually a Texas Tech alum, and my dad attended school at Texas Tech for a little bit. So I just grew up a Red Raider, and whenever it was time to decide where I was coming to college, the decision was easy and very clear for me.
Perfect. And then what are you majoring in and why?
I'm currently majoring in, well, and hopefully graduating with a degree in philosophy and Spanish. So I've always just loved learning the Spanish language since I was a freshman in high school. So when I came to college, I knew that no matter what career I wanted to pursue, that I wanted to have that tool. And once I got here, I became really passionate about understanding these deep, complex issues, understanding rhetoric and persuasion, and ultimately decided that I'd like to pursue a career in the law, specifically in government and public service. And I just really craved and enjoyed the conversations I had in my philosophy classes. So yeah, goal is to become a lawyer, but really just enjoy each of those topics in themselves as well.
Perfect. And then what is your favorite tradition at Tech?
My favorite tradition at Tech has to be whenever Fearless Champion and the Masked Rider lead the football team onto the field. Growing up, I always saw it, and then my first year at Texas Tech, I was a cheerleader, so I was actually on the field whenever it happened, and it's my favorite part of game day, and I think it just really speaks to the spirit and the enthusiasm that our students have. So that's by far my favorite tradition.
Perfect. And then, as I said, you are the student body president. Were you involved in SGA before becoming the president?
Yes, so I got involved midway through my sophomore year. I ran to be a senator, an at-large senator, and served my junior year. Also worked on several committees. We planned the women's conference that took place that year. Was on the Rules and Administration Committee. Got to analyze all the grammar. But yeah, I didn't start out from the beginning of college. I was a little bit late to the game, but from the second I was in Student Government Association, I knew that this would be by far my favorite student organization.
Perfect. And then walk us through last year's election season, since it was right in the middle of pandemic. Texas Tech shut down. So
yes.
What happened?
So when we decided to run, everything was going great. We were getting all of our campaigns situated, finalized, and planned. And we actually had two changes in the game. The first, obviously, was that our executive elections got postponed a month. So our election season ended up being double what it normally is, which was very overwhelming and stressful, as I'm sure you can imagine. But right after elections were delayed, we had our senator elections in person. Texas Tech transitioned to fully online the rest of the semester. And we were like, how do we campaign just on social media? Really required for us to adapt and even reconsider a lot of the initiatives that we were running on. Because if there was a chance this was going to be the new normal, we were really going to have to be strategic about adapting and better understanding what the needs of students were going to be.
And then what made you run for president?
So, like I said, as soon as I got involved in Student Government Association, I fell in love with it. The idea that we got to work alongside students to understand spaces on campus that were in need of change or could be enhanced to better meet the desires and the needs of our students. And so I knew from the beginning that this is something I wanted to be fully devoted to. So a couple of conversations, I was like, I think I'd like to run for an executive office. And then that same semester, a very close friend of mine ended up taking his own life. And it was really devastating for me and a lot of my community. But I think it was a moment where I realized that the needs of students aren't just some of the ones we may think about initially, and SGA isn't about just maybe enhancing these fun activities that students can do, but we really do need to work towards solutions for our students, especially regarding mental health, especially regarding affordability. And so that event, I was like, I want to do this. I want to do it for Cade, and I want to do it for every single Red Raider out there that may feel alone right now and needs the university to step in and be their advocate to meet the needs that they have. And so it was kind of multifaceted, but yeah, that's why.
Okay, and then what was your reaction when you heard that you got elected?
Oh my goodness. So I was at home because we were all quarantined, and so like home as in Panhandle, and we actually had a delay. So normally we find out 2 days after the election, but it was the Good Friday. So the people who were running the election, they were out of office, and we were expecting results on Friday. So we aren't hearing anything all weekend, and I'm just exhausted at this point from checking my Outlook calendar and email trying to see if we get results. And so Monday I just slept in, and what actually woke me up was Faisal FaceTiming me and was like, "Have you not checked your email?" And so we went and checked the email, and I'm like laying in bed half awake. I look and I see that we'd all won, and I like jumped out of bed, ran into the kitchen, and like was crying, and my parents were in there. So it was a really sweet moment, but it's kind of funny because the results had been published for about an hour before I even found out because I was asleep.
That's too funny. And then what was your thoughts when you realized that COVID was going to tag along this year?
Yeah, at first, obviously, just the initial, I think for all of us, there's a lot of devastation of what does this mean for my health? What does this mean for my classes? What does this mean about job and employment opportunities I have this summer and after graduation? And so we sat down as a team and we were like, man, we ran on all these ideas during the campaign, but right now we have a lot more needs and a lot more decisions to make to adjust to this pandemic that weren't there prior to COVID sweeping through the United States. And so it was a complete, started with a new blank slate, and we're like, okay, how do we get students to wear their masks? How are we going to make sure that students are quarantined safely? And nothing that we'd even imagined the conversations we'd be having. So it's just a big adjustment that we had to make in order to reorient what our initiatives would be.
And then what were those initiatives before pandemic, and then when you found out it was going to have the pandemic this semester?
Yeah, so some of our initiatives last year, and we actually ended up being able to focus on them later into the fall semester and throughout this spring semester. So it was kind of nice that we were able to return to a lot of those. But we ran, our big one was our Safe Night Out TTU, which is wanted to provide sexual assault and bystander intervention training to local bar staff and employees. And bars closed. Yeah. I mean, so we're like, what do we do? And some other things regarding affordability and safety, lighting on campus. But after COVID hit, our concerns were, one, how do we cultivate solidarity in navigating this pandemic? Because as I'm sure you're familiar, this is, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about how to navigate this. And so how do we become a unified body, and how do we create this sense of community in caring for one another, which was big. Obviously, decisions around course modality. How many classes are we going to have in person? How many are we going to have online, hybrid, etc.? Then later on, it was getting students vaccinated as soon as possible. So I've been on the vaccine committee all year. And then one of the big ones was affordability. We saw students that would need to quarantine, but quarantining meant that they weren't able to go to work for 2 weeks. And that could be resulting in not being able to meet rent for the month, not being able to pay for groceries. And so we worked a lot with the Raider Relief Fund, which is an emergency fund on our campus, to try to raise awareness that is an option available for our students, then also generate some funds in order to better, to increase that opportunity. So it was just a complete shift.
Well, you did an amazing job this semester, I have to say that. So walk us through an ordinary day as a president.
So first of all, I'll say I'm not a morning person. So my schedule might be a little bit off. I try to wait on class and meetings till after 10. But of course, as a student, I attend my classes like every other student, and working on homework about the same amount. But I go to my office, room 302 of the Student Union building, and in general we'll have 3 to 4 meetings a day. So it could be a committee that I'm on, a meeting with a faculty or administrative member of the Texas Tech community or a student just interested in hearing more, or maybe working on a class project where they need to know a little bit more about what the university is doing. So I'd say that's the first part of the job is I generally have several meetings throughout the day, which this year have all been on Zoom. So I'm just logging in, switching over to walk across campus. But then on top of that, it's preparing communication about specific projects or initiatives, either with the students or reaching out to administration about getting it planned. It's planning the logistics of these. So Faisal, our external vice president this year, has been working on all the logistics of the Safe Night Out TTU program, and that's weeks long planning. And then obviously there's some just like things that pop up, whether it's some form of like a crisis on our campus, or for example, like if an incident of racist or hateful speech comes up, we have to respond to that immediately. Take action on that, be prepared to contact the appropriate administrative officers about what's happened, how to address it, provide action towards addressing that. And so every single day is different. But for me, I've had the unique opportunity this year that I get to walk into the office and see the faces of my very best friends. So SGA officers this year, it's just been like a family. And work doesn't feel like work because we love our job and we get to do it with our very best friends. And so it's just been the best experience this year.
Perfect. And then as student body president, you are the liaison between the administration and student body. What committees do you sit on?
So there's several committees that I sit on as student body president. Some of those include academic council, athletic council, facilities allocation council, which is basically just approving signage across the university and other projects. Don't tell them, but it's really not that interesting. There's some other committees this year, specifically the vaccine committee, getting that implemented on our campus. And then there's like fee setting committees that I'm in charge of appointing students to over 50 different fee setting committees.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot, which we didn't have it as bad this year, or as it wasn't as time consuming because it's not a fee setting year. Next year will be. So that'll be a lot of the next administration's job and time. And then there's other just like random committees. So sometimes whenever there's a policy being implemented at the university, we'll be involved in that. So they're working on attendance software right now. So I sit on that committee, specifically pertaining to addressing the concerns that SGA has had for several years about students paying for different attendance softwares, and we'll be addressing that soon. And yeah, so it's just a variety of random councils and committees, and most of the time I'm one of 2 or 3, or maybe the only student sitting on the committee.
Wow.
So it can, at first it was really intimidating to walk into a Zoom meeting and being the only student voice within there, especially with all of these administrators that hold so much decision making over what affects our lives. But ultimately, eventually, worked up to my voice, and now walk into those with confidence. Sometimes they have to get me to shut up. So, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Perfect. And then what have you learned as being president this semester?
Well, I think first of all, it's affirmed to me what I want to do for the rest of my life. I've always known that the career that I wanted to pursue and the things that I want to do, I wanted to do work that would have very impactful and tangible change on the lives of those around me. And as a result, like, this job has been the opportunity where I've been able to do that the most. I think I've also learned that Texas Tech University is my favorite higher education institution. I thought I already knew that, but I've just gotten to know students more and worked with students more. And it's the students that set apart our campus and really make this job what it is. And then finally, I think that there's a lot of value in standing up for what is right. That's not always the popular decision. And in spaces, sometimes we have to create disruptions. If we see a problem, or if we see an issue, especially pertaining to equity and inclusion, we have to create disruptions in those spaces in order to work towards justice and in order to work towards meaningful change. That's not always the popular decision, but it is the right one. And I think that I've just really witnessed and come to understand the immense value in that. and that it always pays off.
Perfect. And then what is your favorite memory as being president?
Oh, wow. I would have to say, oh man, I think it's been the small celebrations that we get to have as a student government association, whether it means the Senate passed a piece that was really meaningful. So for example, like the mask mandate, our Senate voted to maintain the mask mandate this semester. And after that passed, the university the next day announced that we'd be upholding that, and it was in large part because of what our student senate did. Or last semester, whenever we were successful in hosting an in-person graduation for our December graduates, I think it's those moments of celebration when we either get the email back, or we see the Senate vote, or we get the phone call that our initiative was successful. Because it's so much more than just getting a yes. It's change and policy that is going to improve the lives of our students. And I just think it's all those small moments where we were able to celebrate together and celebrate with the students about the things that we got done.
And then what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Okay, I'm gonna talk about a couple.
No, you did.
Because so some of the ones that we ran on, we were successful. So the first one I think about, and this has been an initiative about 5 to 10 years that SGA has been pushing, is getting menstrual product free dispensers on our campus. That's going to be rolling out in the fall. We ran last year on reforming our budget and finance process, and we were able to successfully do that this year. Our Safe Night Out TTU initiative with getting the bar staff trained. We've been working on that, and we're launching it Monday. And the next administration is going to continue to work on these and implement these. I'm really proud of our Senate this year for passing a land acknowledgement that's right at the beginning of every single SGA meeting. There's so many I could think of. I mean, I think of graduation. SGA sent out a survey to the students last semester, and we got about 8,000 responses pertaining to going online after Thanksgiving break. And that was an initiative that we took to administration in the summer, and then ended up pushing and seeing it through because of the student voice. And so there's several initiatives I could talk about more, but I think that some of those were the sweetest, just because of how tangible that students are going to be able to see that work that SGA's gotten done this year.
Perfect. And would you have done anything different?
The only thing that I think that we could have done different is value every single moment way more than I thought I already did. I always say I'm more grateful for TTU than I was the day before. I know tomorrow I will be more grateful. And so looking back, I'm like, could I have cherished this moment more? Especially with it being my last day in office, I'm very proud of all the accomplishments that we got done, and think that all of those we went after, we were successful in seeing those through. But I'm like, did we enjoy it enough? Did we value it enough? I wish it would last longer, but obviously it's time to move forward, and I'm so confident in the next administration. So I don't think it's necessarily a regret, but it is a question that lingers in the back of my mind is, were there any ways that I could have better valued this process? And I don't think that the answer to that is yes. I do think that we did, but it's always a question there, especially like when you get to the end and it's emotional.
No, I understand that. So you're graduating in May. What are your plans afterwards?
Well, that's a little bit in the air right now. I'll either be attending law school this fall or attending law school the next fall after a gap year. I'm on wait lists at my dream schools right now. So we'll see over the summer how those turn out. And if not, I'll just reapply next cycle and then hopefully get in. But and then after I finish law school, I hope to pursue a career in government and public service. So I'd like to clerk for a federal judge right out of law school, and then maybe do some form of like social advocacy within a nonprofit organization. And then my dream is to be a federal judge. So we'll see how that pans out.
Perfect.
But
then what is your advice for the next upcoming administration, Faisal?
Yeah, I think that the biggest piece of advice that I've emphasized to Faisal during our transition and to all of the incoming officers is to know your why. Know why you ran, why you are here, because every single day you step into that office, if that is not what is motivating you and driving your purpose, you will not work to the job to the level that is required of you and to that you fully can. And if the students are not your why, you need to reevaluate. And so I think it is establishing why you're here, establishing why you ran for this position, and allowing that to carry you through every single day, through every single meeting, through every single Senate night, when maybe as soon as we start transitioning back to people being able to go out, when maybe all of your friends are out on a Thursday or Friday night, but you're in the office working on an initiative that needs to be finalized, it's worth it, because if your why is the students, it's going to drive you to enjoy that. And so it's always honing in on that why and allowing the students to be what shapes that.
Perfect. And then what is your advice to the student population?
I definitely say that whatever your passion is, go after it. I think sometimes we get really focused, obviously, like jobs and careers are so important, and getting prepared for whatever this next step is. But if you don't know what that passion is and you don't know what that is that drives you, discover that. And there's so many opportunities on our campus to be able to do that. Like I said, I didn't start in Student Government Association. I started on the cheerleading squad at Texas Tech. But then I found that, and that's been what I reshaped my education around. I switched my major, and hopefully that's the career that I'll be shaped, that will be shaped by. But it is discover that passion, and if you already have it, pursue it fully and run after that, because I think that whenever we allow those deep values and the things about which we're passionate to drive what we do, we'll not only be better in whatever endeavor that may be, but we'll enjoy every single moment of it. And I hope that's not cliche, but I really, I don't know if it's cliche or not. It might be cliche because it's so true. And so if that means switching your major, I say switch your major. If that means getting involved in a new student organization, get involved in a new student organization. But yeah, I just think that our time here at Texas Tech is really precious, and we've got a really unique campus that we've been welcomed into. Texas Tech, I always consider it a family, and discover that and allow that to be what drives you.
Perfect. And then I had the honor of interviewing you over the summer and all throughout the school year. So for one final time, do you have anything else to add before we conclude this interview?
I want to say thank you to you and all of the people at the Daily Toreador that worked alongside us this year. I know it has probably not been the most fun having to sit outside the Senate room and try to transcribe the whole process and keep everyone updated, but what you do for the students is so important in promoting transparency and getting information out to them about their campus. And to any students or people that watch this, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve as your student body president this year. It has been by far the most meaningful and shaping and growthful experience for me. I would not have had this opportunity. So thank you for placing your trust in our team, and thank you for making this the best year of my life.
And then I just want to say thank you for your time and dedication to the student population and for leading the students during this pandemic. We wish you best in your future and all your future endeavors. That is all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us as I got to talk to the student body president for the 2022-2021 school year, Hunter Heck. Be sure to keep up to date with all things Texas Tech on our website, dailytoreador.com, and be sure to look out for the next copy of the newspaper. Remember, strive for honor evermore. Long live the Matador. Thank you.